Hi everyone and thanks for tuning in. Welcome to my YouTube channel. We have some very interesting news we uncovered quite recently that we want to share with you in this video. Here are the headlines. President Biden's historic nominee pick for the Supreme Court. U.S. judge rejected Trump claim of absolute immunity. Is Donald Trump facing 5 years felony? The Supreme Court turned down an appeal from Trump to hide his presidential documents from January 6 committee. We examined Donald Trump records with Russia and Putin. Can Trump be legally charged for the January 6 riot? Is Donald Trump and kids not willing to testify? What can happen to Trump and his adult children if they plead the Fifth? Stay tuned for the details. One of Trump's strongest allies, Senator Lindsey Graham, was in attendance for Trump's comments, and soon after, he appeared on Fox News and said this: "I miss Donald Trump. If Donald Trump were president, none of this crap would be going on because you got to be strong. When you're weak is when everything falls apart. And Biden is weak and Trump was strong. I hope we have another election soon." In August 2017, the Russian government expelled 755 people from the American embassy and consulate staff. Trump responded by thanking Putin and saying he greatly appreciated the striking diplomatic move. And early in 2018, after Putin won a sham election, White House officials pleaded with Trump not to congratulate the Russian leader. But the Republican leader ignored his own White House officials and congratulated Putin for winning a sham election. In July 2017, as Congress approved new sanctions against Russia for having attacked our elections, the Trump White House tried to weaken the legislation. The then president grudgingly signed the bill, not because he supported it, but because it passed by veto-proof margins. He then issued a statement criticizing Congress's proposal. That same month, Trump had a private chat with Putin, after which Donald Trump announced plans to partner with Russia on an impenetrable cybersecurity unit. Trump had only been in office for a few months when he prepared to reward Russia, apparently in exchange for nothing, by giving it diplomatic compounds on American soil that had been taken during the Obama administration. During that same month, Trump welcomed Russian diplomats into the Oval Office, at Putin's request, at which time Donald Trump revealed highly classified information to his Russian guests for no apparent reason. 2 weeks after Trump's inauguration day, Trump bragged about his respect for Putin. Reminded that the Russian autocrat is a killer, the new American president questioned his own country's moral authority. "We've got a lot of killers," Donald said. "What, do you think our country's so innocent?" 2 weeks later, top members of Trump's team explored ways to lift sanctions against Russia. During the post-election presidential transition period, Trump spoke openly about easing sanctions on Russia, which roughly coincided with Michael Flynn's secret communications with Russia, which he would later lie to the FBI about but later plead guilty for lying under oath to the FBI and Congress. Donald Trump later pardoned him from going to jail. Before Trump got elected in 2016, Trump already showed signs of weakness when it came to his political benefactors in Moscow. During the Republican National Convention, for example, Donald Trump and his team showed no real interest in the platform's contents, except to remove language about providing Ukraine with defensive weapons. Also before Election Day, Trump touted Putin for having outsmarted U.S. leaders. All the while, Trump was seeking, receiving, benefiting from, and lying about Russia's intervention in the 2016 elections on his behalf. Who do you think is strong? Trump or Biden? We did some fact-checking. Let's use Graham's talking point because it's difficult to take seriously the idea that President Joe Biden is weak, especially as it relates to policy toward Russia, but even more provocative is Graham's belief that Trump was strong. Was Trump really strong? Let's take a stroll down memory lane. Donald Trump's record on Russia is filled with scandals and weakness. Someone probably ought to remind his Republican allies about the following fact: as Russia's Vladimir Putin began his invasion of Ukraine this week, Donald Trump made no effort to hide his adulation. Trump described the Russian leader's military offensive as genius and very savvy. Referring to Putin declaring portions of Ukraine as independent, Trump said it was a wonderful strategy. Yesterday, Trump issued a written statement touting Putin and admonishing his own country's president. Last night at Mar-a-Lago, Trump kept the celebration going, telling an assembled crowd how smart Putin is for launching a military offensive against his neighbor. President Joe Biden on Friday handpicked Ketanji Brown Jackson as his nominee for the U.S. Supreme Court. If confirmed by the Senate, Jackson will be the first black woman to sit on the Supreme Court, which is historic. Mr. Biden's decision, made after a month-long search, fulfilled a campaign promise to nominate a black woman to the bench, and set into motion a confirmation battle that will play out in an evenly divided Senate. He announced the nomination at the White House, flanked by Judge Jackson and Kamala Harris, the first black woman to be elected vice president. Letitia James fired back in a press release, quote, Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump were ordered by the court to comply with our lawful investigation in Mr. Trump and the Trump Organization's financial dealings, unquote. She added, quote, while they've the legal right to seek a delay, they cannot deter us from following the facts and the law wherever they may lead, unquote. She continued, quote, make no mistakes, my office will continue to pursue this case without fear or favor because no one is above the law, unquote. However, if Trump and kids plead the fifth in this investigation, it can cause most damage to the Trump family. It could be used against them in a criminal case like the Manhattan, DA case, which is ongoing as we speak. In another development, Donald Trump put out a statement recently regarding New York State Attorney General Letitia James' subpoenas to testify. Quote, we are not going to testify but will delayed possible for months while their lawyers appeal the judge's order which was issued last week, unquote. The judge ruled that Trump's and his adult children must respond to the subpoenas and testify under oath in the ongoing investigation into Donald Trump and his organization financial dealings. According to legal experts and scholars, Trump will be charged with conspiracy to defraud United States and obstructing official proceeding because he pressured Mike Pence to overturn the 2020 election results on January 6, and addressing his mob rioters to go and stop the steal. In another news, the Supreme Court for the second time refused to hear Donald Trump's so-called executive privilege case to concede his January 6 records. The court said, Congress have the right to investigate what happened on January 6. Trump was asked by the Supreme Court to turn over all call logs, visitors logs, text messages, including phone call records to the January committee investigating the riot. Meanwhile, the National Archives have asked the Department of Justice to conduct a criminal investigation regarding the classified top-secret documents Donald Trump stole from the White House. He wanted to hide these documents at his Mar-a-Lago home. This is a federal crime to take presidential records away from the National Archives where the documents belongs, and it is also illegal. If found guilty, Donald Trump could face 5 years prison term for taking top-secret classified documents away from the White House. The judge also had this to say, quote, Mr. Trump would have known that some of his mob viewed his invitation to march to the Capitol as a call made it almost possible that he was involved in a tacit agreement involving the president is made all the more plausible by his response to the violence that erupted at the Capitol building. Unquote. The judge mentioned that Trump's January 6 rally was akin to telling an excited mob that corn dealers starved the poor in front of the corn dealers' home. He invited his supporters to D.C. after telling them for months that corrupt and spineless politicians were to blame for stealing an election. He abused his power. Therefore he must be held accountable for the Capitol attacked. The United States judge recently rejected and dismissed Donald Trump's claim of absolute immunity over his January 6 presidential records. The Capitol police officers and others who were injured as a result of the riot sued Trump to hold his accountable for his actions on the horrific day, when Trump urged his supporters to march to the Capitol. The judge said, quote, Trump's own words and actions is evidence to suggest that Donald Trump conspired with extremist groups to overturn the 2020 election, unquote. According to the judge, Trump conspired with the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, and other extremist groups to pursue the same goal, which was to overthrow the government so he can stay in power. The 51-year-old judge was born in Washington, D.C., and grew up in Miami. She graduated from Harvard College and Harvard Law School, Justice Breyer's alma mater. She went on to clerk for him during the 1999-2000 Supreme Court term. Few months later, Trump appeared alongside Putin in Helsinki, lashed out at Americans he doesn't like, and announced that he considered the Russian leader more reliable than his own country's intelligence agencies who told him Russia interfered with the 2016 election, but on stage along Putin he believes Putin, who told him Russia did not interfere in the elections despite the evidence seen by American intelligence agencies. As 2018 neared its end, Trump lifted Russian sanctions. Make no mistake, Trump and Putin are dictator and a mob ruler. We want to take this time to sympathize with the people of Ukraine for what they are going through. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video please subscribe to this channel.